everyone can hear me. Thank you very much. That discussion with Daniel was really, really fascinating. I bow for these, and very good, very well done. I think these are the stories that need to be told so that more people wake up. But anyway, our discussion is going to include two awesome Obama scholars, Shazeeb Islam, there he is, from all the way from Bangladesh, and Flavia Maia. Where is Flavia? Flavia is all the way from Brazil. Now, none of us can deny that the COVID era has shown us that all of us around the world belong to one ecosystem. When one part of the ecosystem suffers, doesn't do well, other parts of the ecosystem get affected by the hurt that happens, or the damage that happens in one. How do we get young people, old people, all people of sight, people of all ages to get involved in creating a better ecosystem in the best way you can, whatever you do in life? How do you contribute to the common shared global good? Now, this discussion obviously is going to involve people who are already involved in that, who are also finding ways to be not only raising voices, their voices for the need for more people to wake up to the idea of contributing in the best way they can to the ecosystem, but also earning income from that. If you come from a country such as Bangladesh or several countries in Africa or South America, anywhere in the world, how do you get young people to be fascinated by the need to contribute, to get others to contribute, but also to make a living out of it in a responsible way? So perhaps if I go too far, let me give my two panelists, Shazeeb and Maya. Usually we start with the ladies. I have no idea why, but we'll start with Flavia, all the way from Brazil, to tell us what she does. She's obviously she's a climate activist. She's an environmental expert. She has worked for government in Brazil. She has worked privately. She continues to work privately. She engages with all sorts of people on the ground, doing amazing things to change perceptions about the relationship between humans and other species, as well as the responsibility towards the environment. Flavia, do you want perhaps to take a few minutes to tell us more about yourself, your background, what you're doing now, and why you got or how you got into doing what you're doing? You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Yep.
Okay, thank you for having me, Solly. Hi, Shazeeb. I'm very happy to be here in this event. So I am Flávia. I am Brazilian. I am a climate activist and also a social entrepreneur. I have been working with climate change for more than 10 years now because I live in this climate hotspot in Brazil. I am from Piauí. The state of Piauí is very near the equator line and it's known by its hot weather. We call it the daughter of the equator sun. It's summer all year long. So I have been living with the heat for my whole life. And I'm also a descendant of climate migrants. So my personal and professional stories intertwine. And that's why I do what I do, because I know what climate change does, not only to the environment, but also to people. So I bring this social dimension of climate change to my work. And I also like to understand what's at the intersection of climate change and gender equality, because climate change does the most harm to those who did the least to cause it. This is something we call climate injustice. Most of the climate harm was done by countries on the global north, but most of the burden relies on countries of the global south, like Brazil. So this is like an overview of what I do and why I do what I do. And I'm happy to discuss more if you want to know how I became an Obama scholar, which is something that people are always curious about, and the whys behind the what's.
Right. Well, tell us just a little bit about how you became an Obama scholar. How do people get into that? And then we'll move to Shazib afterwards.
Sure. So the Obama Scholars Program is a partnership between the Obama Foundation and Columbia University in the city of New York. And they select rising leaders, people that are at a breakthrough moment of their careers and that are ready to do a bigger impact. In my case, to go from local impact to global impact. So every year they select 11, 12 leaders from all different regions of the globe. And we spend 1 year learning from each other, learning with people from the Obama administration, taking courses at Columbia University, and basically having all the tools and methodologies we need to promote huge social impact. And before the Obama Scholars Program, as you said, I was working for the local government of Teresina, this climate hotspot in Brazil. But working for the government in Brazil, if you work with climate change, can be really challenging because in the federal government of Brazil, there is a lot of climate denial. So I decided to create my own social business. And Shazeeb helped me a lot, and he has been helping me a lot to explore this new world of social entrepreneurship. So now I'm founding an association called Filha do Sol, the sun's daughter. It honors my culture, my ancestors, my climate, and my territory. And it's about accelerating climate adaptation. So I support local organizations to get funding and knowledge to address climate change, and at the same time create green jobs for women, especially women of color, who are a majority of people in my region and also are among the most vulnerable to climate change. And we are now starting a new project on mangrove restoration, and I'm super excited to share more about it with you later.
Okay, thank you very much. Shazib, you're sitting all the way in Bangladesh. You're making your own difference, your own waves out there. How is it working out for you? How did you get into this? And how easy is it for you to get young people to get involved in social entrepreneurship?
Thank you so much, Soli. It's such a pleasure to join you all. Hi, Flavia, and hi, friends. So I'm joining you all from Dhaka. And Soli, thank you so much for starting with this question. I I think it's easy, but it's also not easy at the same time. So it really depends how you look at the world. So the way I look into my life and the world is how can I make myself useful for someone else, right?
Right.
And then this somehow helped me to find the purpose of my life, and I found joy in doing social businesses, and now I help other people to build social businesses.
When did you start? Tell us when you started
Yeah,
also.
yeah. So I started out as an entrepreneur in 2014 when I was finishing my master's at University of Dhaka. I was how should I say? I was trained and groomed to become a university faculty, and I respect and love teaching as the most noble profession for this. And I taught for a while, but this was also the time, I'm literally very early 20s to emerge into the world, and I wanted to do something. And this was the time when Professor Yunus, who's a Nobel Peace Prize winner and founder of Grameen Bank, I heard him speak in a conference, and then he said, our generation of young people is the most powerful generation in the history of mankind. Why? Because we have the access to technology. Like now we all can gather here together, discuss about many things that we care about. And then he also said, as young people, we should not be job seekers, we should be job creators. So this really made me thinking. And then it took at least 2 years for me to explore what to do and how to get really started. So this was also the time when I tried to reflect on my childhood, how I grew up. So I lived with my mother in a village, which is 3 hours drive from the city, and my father worked abroad. And this was also the time, I come from a very humble family, but I also saw many people, the villagers, they suffered due to lack of electricity. Right? Till I was 6 years old, I did not know that we were drinking arsenic contaminated water. So I think my education has really helped me to become the person who I am. And then I started to really challenge questions. There's another interesting story, how I started out my first business. And for this, we wanted to do like a community gathering where we wanted to see what kind of challenges and problems we have in our city and how do we come together and solve them. So I made a Facebook post was hoping that at least 20 people will sign up for these. There were 147 people who said, yes, I'm with you. I want to come to this program. We want to solve this. And so that's how it all got started. Then one thing came after another in terms of if it's easy or not. I think I was loved and accepted by the world, and I'm so grateful to so many people like Professor Strayer, who contributes tirelessly with love towards the work that we do. Another thing why it's not so easy for me, because I think I don't mind if I have to ask for help. If I need something, I'll say, Soli, I really need this. Can you help me? So I think this is a perspective that makes many things easy.
Great. You know, of course, I should have mentioned that you have Professor Yunus as your mentor. Do you tell us about that relationship? Do you guys talk often? And what does
Yes.
it do for you to be mentored by him?
So first of all, so when I was 9 years old, I moved to the city, and then the building where I lived for the next 15 years, I could literally see Grameen Bank, the building, every day. And then when I was going to the school or college, I would see one of his pictures. He always smiles, at least. And then he was making some positive changes in our country. And when he won Nobel Prize, I was appearing for my secondary school certificate exam, and I was genuinely happy, right? And then when at masters, I really was asking questions, what happened, right? And then I went to this conference, I heard him speak. I think 6 months later, I got to meet him. I spoke to him for 10 months. And then I think I followed his journey, tried to learn more. And then we were once invited to go to a conference in Malaysia. The flight got delayed. And then I started talking to him at the airport lounge on happiness. How does he find joy, etc. And then he started to ask me what kind of problems that I do not like or I wish to see gone. So access to clean water was one such. And then with one of his companies and funds, and from my company, we started a joint venture project. I think in terms of working together, this was the beginning. And then 3 years later, we wanted to structure our company as a Yunus brand. So YY stands for Yunus and You. And we wanted to create a collective of social businesses. Then we became partners. Since last year, he started a new not-for-profit to engage the world of young people into the world of creating a world of 3 zeros, which is zero poverty, zero unemployment, and zero carbon emission. And then I signed up for the not-for-profit as the CEO. Yeah, so it's like listening to him from the conference, still working with him, and now I think we speak all the time.
That's great, wonderful. Don't stop. Flavia, you mentioned in your intro that you worked for government, and at some point you felt that there was a level of climate denialism on the part of government. You went out on your own. How are you finding it to grow your project and to get more people not only to join you but to remain engaged in it when in an environment where you probably don't get the 100% support that you think you should get? Or are you managing after you've gone independent to show government that there's amazing work that needs to be done there and that they're perhaps beginning to follow you? You're still muted. Perhaps maybe if you guys could stay not muted if you can, so that we can make it flow. All right.
Yeah, I need every time that I'm going to unmute, I need an authorization to be a co-host. So I'll just let unmute it. That's why it takes me a while.
No
So
problem.
Soli, this is a very good question. And I want to make sure that all of you guys that are here in the audience knows what's happening in Brazil. So Brazil has been facing one of the greatest environmental tragedies in its history, because the federal government has been reducing fiscalization over fires, for example. So Brazil has been burning almost all our biomes. So when you think about Brazil, you often think about the Amazon, but this is just one of the huge biodiversities that we have. I live in another one called Caatinga, which was the one that was the most destroyed over the past few years. And yes, it is very challenging to work with climate when there are so many opposite forces.
Right.
So what I do is that I connect with the international community. There is a lot of funding, climate finance, and my challenge is to frame the problems of our regions, of Brazil and also the Brazilian Northeast, in terms of climate challenge. For example, I live in the polygon of drought, which is an area that is subject to desertification. And we have it there, a desert that is at the same size of the UK. So we have to talk more about this in spaces like this one with people from different countries, so you can understand that you can support Brazil as well with knowledge, with funding. I have this way of seeing reality as a reality of abundance. So I think there is enough money and there is enough knowledge out there to address the climate challenge. We just need to make sure that this money and this knowledge flows to where they have the biggest impact, where the impact is meaningful and every dollar matters. And this is on the ground. This is on frontline communities, on tropical communities, on islands, on coastal village, like the one that I live in Brazil. So answering to your question, yes, it's very challenging to do this when the government is against climate action, but it's also possible. And I envision a world where we can lead climate action from bottom to up in a network with the support of the international community. And it's very important to use spaces like this one to raise awareness about what's happening in Brazil and to make sure that everyone in the world helps, because what happens in Brazil will determine if we are going to achieve or not the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Because you know what happens in Brazil has a domino effect over the whole world. We are a big, we have this big food production, we export food, and there are many other things that Brazil does that matters in this environmental global system.
So the other part of my question was, how do you get the younger people to not only join you, but to stay engaged? And I want to add something quickly to that. You know, when you talk about brands, the Amazon is a big brand in terms of biomes, global brand. People know the Amazon. It's easy to raise funds to save the Amazon. It's easy to create publicity around the Amazon. When you talk about Kachai, is it Kachai? How do you, how do you get the world to be interested in important biodiversity zones that are threatened but that are not known? How do you do that? What is it?
I tell the stories of people. I tell the stories of people who are already facing the impacts of climate change, and I make sure that everyone understands that climate change is not about preserving natural resources for future generations. It's not just about intergenerational solidarity. It's about people now having trouble to access water and food. And people that I know, and I take pictures and videos of these people, and I show their stories with their authorization to international audiences, and I share with them the hardships. When you think about the Amazon, for example, people often think about trees, but the Amazon is a huge territory with a lot of people living there, not only indigenous people, but whole cities. And people living in the cities in informal settlements or favelas, as we say in Brazil, they face a lot of challenges. So my approach is to tell people's stories and tell about the importance of intercultural solidarity. It's not about solidarity between generations, but also a more horizontal solidarity between cultures and peoples. And I find that when I do that, it's very effective, especially with young people, because most of the people just want to cut through the noise and to understand what they can do now and see an impact in their lifetime. And I can tell you there is a lot that can be done.
I believe you. So we have to be able to move from intergenerational influence to global influence, hence this discussion. So you guys have been talking for a while, you understand each other's challenges in Bangladesh, in Brazil. How do we raise the volume, as it were, of the discussion so that the world, or maybe even in your own two worlds, how do you get young Bangladeshi to become aware of what's going on in Brazil and vice versa, so that there are some form of exchanges, so that people feel that they are not alone. We are all involved. We are all affected by climate change. How do you do that? What kind of funding do you need, and how do you raise that kind of funding?
Should I?
And yeah, you go first. And global into obviously you need media, right? You need the media to be interested in telling your stories so that the world, they get amplified sufficiently for people to be aware of them and to hopefully find a way to support them. Yeah, Mr. Shazib.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think as a company and as a person, we wish for a just and sustainable world, and I truly believe and think and got many examples where we think our young talents, they want to solve the social and environmental challenges that we have. Now the question to government, to ecosystem builders, universities, and private sector: how do you want to support them? Do you want to take their journey, right? Um, so it's so from an entrepreneur's perspective, I think most of the actions or activities that we take from our company has a global perspective into it. And the three major problems that we are trying to solve is poverty, unemployment, and carbon emission. This is not just a Bangladeshi problem or Brazilian problem. If Amazonia is burning, then I will definitely have impact in my life in Dhaka, right? So that's why what we do is like through our programs, we always try to create a community and a space from where young people can come and speak and they can share and learn from each other, right?
Right.
That's the first part, learning. And then the second part is, which is also connected to your media, but I do not think we have really actively focused as a company on reaching out to traditional media, but I think technology gives us the super tool, which is social media, and you can create exchange, and that's how you became friends with the personalities that works in media. So they pick up those stories and then they want to come and work with you. In terms of funding, I think our funding, we are a business, so and we sell our services, products, and programs. Sometimes it's the government who becomes partners with us. We work with the Dutch government for our incubation program in Bangladesh, and it's a wonderful partnership. They want to see young Bangladeshis solve problems that also are of their interest. So they create jobs and, for example, support a farmer to have fair market price. This is also their interest because they have businesses with our country. Second thing would be private sector. We also work with a lot of development agencies. One of the big trends that we see, they are shifting from a charity to a more sustainable approach, right? For example, 10 years ago, maybe you were thinking, okay, we have to give access to clean water to 1,000 people. So we will install pipe water system and then give them money. They don't have to pay anything. And now you want to work with an entrepreneur who runs a social business, and you say, maybe the family pays 10 cents, right? So there is a behavioral change here. And the last thing is impact cannot happen in isolation. We need collective action. It's a famous quote from the Impact Hub Network. We also own, and I work as the managing director of Impact Hub in Dhaka. I don't know if you guys know it, so I'll share the example of Impact Hub. So Impact Hub are community spaces, co-working spaces, and network of social entrepreneurs. We have more than 25,000 entrepreneurs who access our programming, and there are 104 or 100 plus locations in general. And we all work together, we take collective action. So it doesn't really matter if Impact Hub is in Lisbon or in Dhaka or in Jakarta. I think our mission and purpose connects us, and that's how social change happens.
Flavia?
I'm always so inspired by Shazeeb. Yeah. I can complement what he said. Shazeeb is more advanced in this mobilization of the youth and communication than I'm just starting. What works for me is to personalize my message. I like what Daniel said about tell the stories you do know. So I do know stories about climate, about the hardships of drought and desertification. So personalize your message. And when people ask me, when I talk to the youth, they ask me how I do networking. I feel it's super hard because I'm shy or I'm introspective. And I just say, don't do networking. Don't make contacts, make friends, choose people that you can really connect with. Because later down the road, these will be the donors, for example, or people that can mobilize with you to crowdfund. And all the operationalization will happen naturally. But at the first time, just tell your story, tell your personal story, send your message with emotion, and then make friends and make sure that people understand what you do and what you want them to do, that you have a clear call to action.
Right. Look, we live in a world. I have to say we have about 6-7 minutes before the end of the session, but I want to make sure that you guys get to say if there's a key message that you want to leave behind to our audience. Let me give you first, maybe one and the other, a few moments to say what you think I might not ask you that you want to make sure you've said so that you sleep peacefully at night tonight, and then we'll finish the session with one or two other questions. So who wants to go first? Shazib? Is there
Yeah,
something that
sure.
you woke up this morning thinking, I have got to say this before the end of the session?
Yeah, sure. So this has also happened with my life. Sometimes while starting up, we remain a bit confused, like, how to crack this deal, how to move forward, am I doing it right? And in kind of my culture, the propensity is pretty high when you really doubt if you fail, what's going to happen? Your family, your friends, everybody is going to say, Shazeeb has failed us. He has become a failure, right? And that's why I think many people doesn't really want to go after their dream, right? So to all those friends, my request is, it doesn't matter what the world thinks. Listen to your heart and go for it. If you think you have an idea, you deeply care about building something, solving a problem, go for it. If you fail, there is no harm in it. You will eventually learn more by failing. So that's the message.
Awesome. Flavia? Yeah, Flavia. Well, what would you like
Yeah.
to say that you have got to say before you leave?
I got to say that you can do it. You don't have to do it alone. So don't put all the burden over you. You can share responsibilities. You will find like-minded people to go with you in this journey, and I'm sure you can do it with them. And the other thing that helps me a lot is to remind that solution don't have to come only from your head, from your brain. You can engage your heart, you can engage your hands, you can search for wise solutions, because this is what the world needs. We cannot keep replicating old solutions. We need systemic change. And for systemic change, you need to engage your whole selves into work. So when you are feeling overwhelmed, stressed, isolated, thinking that the problem that you want to address is too big and you are too small, just take a deep breath, maybe do a visualization, a meditation, and remember that you can do it. You don't have to do it alone, and you can engage your whole self in this solution.
Okay, I have one more question just for the two of you. I'm a brand person, and I think that we live in a world of short attention spans. How do you get people? Do you guys ever think about how do we put it out there to the people who are not part of our environment? People to how to the whether it's the media, potential funders, government. How do you make it sexy? What you guys are doing? How do do you think in terms of brands and making it attractive for people to want to know more about it? I
Should
got
I
you.
go
Hey,
first again, Fla? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
anyone?
Uh, yeah. So this needs deep thinking, but I think so. In terms of in terms of designing a business, what do? We try to design with beneficiaries, right? Or customers, because that's the best way to go. So in terms of fundraising, partnerships, or looking for attention, I think my go-to exercise is to invite them to experience what we do and how we do it.
Okay. Flavia?
Right? I think, yeah.
Okay.
For me, it works when I shape the narrative to the audience. So if I'm talking to young people, I can say the first sentence of my website that I'm developing now is the climate future is feminist and hot. And young people will understand that. The climate future is feminist and hot. It's a very sexy message. But if I'm talking to a government leader in Brazil, I will not tell this. I will tell about unemployment. I will tell about the importance of developing the region with a new infrastructure. But I'm solving the same problem, and I'm giving the same solutions, which is solutions to the sustainable development of my region. But I'm using different words so I can connect with the audience. Just remember, every time that you're talking, it's not about you. Take the ego out of the way and communicate using words that your audience will connect with.
Absolutely. To our audience out there, Shazeeb Islam, all the way from Bangladesh, Flávia, Maia, all the way from Brazil. You can connect with them even after this. We could go on forever having this discussion because there's so much more to talk about, but we don't have all the time. Next, we're going to have SheShe, an R&B singer from New York City, USA, followed by another discussion called The Two Learning Journeys, or Two Learning Journeys, The Road Taken. Thank you, guys. Thank you for making the time to be here, and please stay connected so that our audience can continue engaging on the chat line. Thank you very much.
Well, all right, okay, you win. I'm in love with you. Well, all right, okay, you win. Baby, what can I do? I'll do anything you say. It's just gotta be that way. Well, all right, okay, you win. I'm in love with you. Well, all right, okay, you win. Baby, what can I do? Anything you say, I'll do. As long as it's me and you. All that I am asking, all I want from you is just love me like I love you. It won't be hard to do. Well, alright, okay, you win. I'm in love with you. Well, alright, okay, you win. Well, baby, what can I do? I'll do anything you say. It's just gotta be that way. Oh, yeah. All that I'm asking, all I want from you is just love me, and I love you, and it won't be hard to do. Well, all right, okay, you win. I'm in love with you. Well, all right, okay, you win. Well, baby, what can I do? I'll do anything you say. It's just gotta be that way. Yeah.